In this video, we're going to take our first look at a new variable type called pointers. They're a very powerful thing to be using in your programming. And to start it all off, what I want to do is actually show you a simple little program here that doesn't use pointers at all. Very simple little program. So the code's over there on the left, and we'll kind of put our little computer screen over here on the right, what the computer's doing on the right. So as the computer goes through and starts executing the code, after, of course, it's been compiled, first thing we see is we need a variable called Groot. So we're going to go to the computer's memory chips and find a little spot, a little box, a little memory location, a pigeonhole, people might call it, where we can go and store stuff. We're going to give it a name. We're going to say, all right, there you go. And it says, I am Groot. So whenever we want to talk about it, we know that we can just call it Groot. Next instruction in the code is an assignment. So the computer's going to work out the math on the right, very easy, it's 7, and then store it in a variable that's apparently called Groot. So it finds the variable, oh yeah, okay, got it right over there, and there's the box. Let's go and store in the answer to that math. We're going to store the number 7. Then we get to a pair of lines here that are going to just display that. So we have to go, in addition to saying Groot equals, we have to go and find this variable that is calling itself Groot and display it. So we found the variable, and then on the screen, great, the number 7 comes up. No big deal. Okay, we haven't used pointers there at all. Now, this next time we do the program, I'm going to throw some pointers in there just so you can see exactly how they work. So the code is similar, but it's got an extra set of declarations and displays that are going on at the same time. All right, so we've got a little computer going on over on the right, and that's where our memory locations are going to be as well. And the first thing that we run into is a declaration. We're going to tell the computer, hey, save some space for an integer, and we're going to refer to it as Groot. So the computer goes and makes a little box, finds a little spot on the memory chip where it's allowed to put some numbers, and it gives it a name. Puts a little name tag on it, says, all right, you are Groot. All right, fine, but here's the weird thing. We call it Groot, but actually the computer wants to call it a very specific number that it's going to use to find that location on the memory chip. And so there it is, or at least that's what it might be on my computer. It could be anything on yours, and it's kind of awkward to use that number, so we're just going to use that nice little name tag Groot. It's a lot easier. Okay, I guess you could say that 0 times 22FF48 is some crazy number that points to that location on the memory chip in a very mathematical way, maybe a little more precisely than the name tag I am Groot does. Fine. Next thing the computer does is it does another declaration. It says, okay, I need another one, and this one's going to be called, I'm calling it PTR, short for pointer, but this one's different. It's got a little star in front of it, a little asterisk in front of it there. But it is going to go and make a little spot in memory, a little box. It's going to give it a name. It's called pointer or PTR. But this one is actually quite different because of that star. What it's basically saying is this is going to be a memory location that is appropriately sized so that we can store addresses, memory addresses for integers. Kind of like that address number 0 times 22FF48. This will be a memory location that can hold things that look like that. All right, then we get down to the next line in the code where we're going to go and store the number 7 into Groot. So it's a math. We work out the stuff on the right. Obviously it's 7, and we're going to go and put it in a place called Groot. The computer goes and finds this memory location that we like to call Groot and says, great, you know what? I have to go and store the number 7 in there. Fine, everything's done. The computer's got 7 stored into Groot. Then we get to this line. What we're going to do here is we're going to store a number into that pointer memory location. That memory location that can hold numbers of memory locations. And so it works out the stuff on the right and stores it into the left. Now on the right, there's this special little ampersand symbol. And that actually is a way of saying, hey, what you need to do is go look at Groot and don't look at the number 7, but look at its memory address. So think of that ampersand as standing for address of. So we first go and find Groot, but we don't want to store the number 7. Instead, we want to grab the number that's pointing to it because of that ampersand. So we're going to take that number, and then we're going to store it into this memory location called pointer. So we've now stored the memory chip address number for that variable Groot, which is currently holding 7. Then come the outputs. The first one we're just going to do like before, print off whatever's stored in Groot. So the computer goes and it finds Groot. It says, all right, what's in you? The answer is 7. Great. Groot equals 7. And it prints it out. Now, this next pair of lines is actually going to print off what's stored in the memory box pointer. Well, we can see it right there on the screen. So it's going to go and find this memory location that we're just calling pointer, and it's going to go and grab that number and say, all right, if you want it, here it is, and it'll display that on the screen. Not something that's particularly useful to me unless I'm like R2D2 or something like that, but there it is. That's the actual memory chip address number. The last pair of lines is kind of neat. It's going to print off pointer in a way, but not really the pointer address. It's going to do something called dereferencing the pointer. So in addition to printing deref pointer equals, right, that stuff that's in the quotes, it's going to go and find this pointer variable PTR, but because it's actually got this asterisk in front of PTR down in the code, it's going to go take that pointer address and then say, all right, what are you pointing at? So it finds that memory location, which is actually Groot, and it prints the number 7. So that's called dereferencing the pointer. We're not printing the pointer's value, but we're printing what the pointer is pointing at. Now, just two last little brain melting issues to be aware of. We've had this memory location that I've just called pointer. It's got a memory chip location as well. So you could, if you wanted to, have a pointer storing the location of the pointer. And you can see this kind of goes on forever if you want. We didn't need it, so I didn't bother putting it in there. Last thing to be aware of, arrays are kind of strange things. It turns out they're actually working with pointers already. An array, when you declare it and say something like test scores, hey, I need 4 of them in your declaration, what you're actually doing is you're going to give the pointer variable, the pointer value, might be 0 times 22FF48, and store that into test scores as a name. So when we actually go to talk about test scores, we're talking about that memory location that's actually pointed to by that 022FF48. And then when we say test scores 197, it knows to go to the next location down the road on the memory chip. So in some strange way, the name test scores is actually a pointer already that's pointing to the first of perhaps many, in this case 4 different spots in memory. And that's it. That's our first look at pointers. We're going to see that they're actually really important 2 videos down the road when we start actually doing some sort of subprograms called functions. And when we want to start passing information into the little subprograms and then getting them back, it turns out we're going to use pointers to do that quite a bit.